सेव किया था ना?
मैं सिर्फ इसलिए गया था क्योंकि उसने मुझे कॉल किया, that's it. But listen तो.
Save it for someone else.
जिंदगी में सेव करना जरूरी है, मगर जब बात पैसों की हो, सिर्फ सेविंग से काम नहीं चलेगा। इक्विटी म्यूचुअल फंड्स में इन्वेस्ट कीजिए और अपने सेविंग्स को आगे बढ़ने का मौका दीजिए।
Mutual fund investments are subject to market risks. Read all scheme-related documents carefully.
On the dominant side of the political divide these days, there is a euphoria that India has never been in a sweeter spot in its history. Our economy is doing so brilliantly that we have left our former colonial masters, Britain, far behind on total GDP. Our markets are booming, the rupee has weakened less against the dollar than all other major currencies. Make in India, Digital India, Skill India, Khelo India, Invest India all mark a great era of economic boom and Indian resurgence. The silly fellows at World Bank may cut our growth estimate to 6.5%. It will still be the highest for a major economy in the world this year. Which, I mean the West, now looks up to India as an oasis in an era of vast drought of growth, intellectual ideas and also morality. Look elsewhere. Our armed forces are modernizing at a pace never seen before. Our enemies have never been so wary of us. The boom is also represented by our unprecedented rise in sports. We are winning more medals than ever. So many native Indians are becoming CEOs of top global MNCs. India is the flavor the world over. In short, it is a resurgent mood of Bale Bale we have never seen before. Wherein lies the need for applying a circuit breaker. The reason I haven't used quote marks or that most horrible of all punctuation marks, sign of exclamation, in all the achievements listed above is that this week's argument isn't about fact checking. Nor have I avoided using those quote marks or those qualifications for fear of being lumped with the usual nattering nabobs of negativity. Remember what former American Vice President Spiro Agnew once said about his critics. And why am I throwing caution to the winds? Because it is fully my intention today to be a spoilsport. More important than putting all these perceived and real achievements to the test of reality and facts is to alert ourselves to some of our greatest perils in our larger national thinking, method and style, or the larger national character. I shall list 4 here. Number 1, we Indians have what I might describe as the mindset of a Bharat Ki Gori. Have you been in a North Indian or a Hindi heartland Bharat where the groom comes riding a Ghodi? So we are like Bharat Ki Gori, that mare. So this is the mindset of a Bharat Ki Gori. The mare which the groom comes riding to his wedding in much of northern and heartland India, by habit and training, the Ghodi or the mare stops every 50 yards or so and only moves again after a bunch of Baratis, which is the groom's family and guests, have done a jig in front of it. We do not believe in consistent, self-starting and self-motivating work. Honorable exceptions apart. Now I know you hate me for saying this, but check out the productivity rates in our businesses and all activities. Think specifically manufacturing, where we just can't compete. Now the second weakness is that we mostly think we are better at doing the other guy's work. Many of us or most of us believe that we can do the job of the Indian cricket coach or selector better. In any family gathering, there will be somebody who will write a prescription for what ails you, God forbid. Sure enough, they would have had no medical education. Real doctors don't give you advice at parties and that too for free. For each qualified doctor, however, you can find 10 fellow Indians, if not more, that believe they know better. The army thinks it can do the police job better and vice versa. And civil servants believe they can do everybody else's job brilliantly. If you spend time in news media companies like me, you'd know that we journalists believe the bottom line would look so much better if we were in charge of marketing, sales and management. And those guys know, the management, marketing, sales guys know how much better the state of the world might be if only they were writing the editorials. Next point, the next weakness. There is an old truism about snatching defeat from the jaws of victory or victory from the jaws of defeat. We Indians have that unique attribute of stealing other people's defeat. For years now, the standard evidence for fears over economic reform has been, see, there are dangers. Haven't you read Stiglitz? By the way, I first heard that from the late Jyoti Basu in a 2002 or 3 Walk the Talk interview for NDTV. Or Piketty. Haven't you read Piketty? The fact that these discontents that come after decades of what could be described as free market capitalist excess in these nations or these geographies, while we hadn't seen even one financial year of that, doesn't matter. If only we let our economy run for a decade like some of the success stories of the past decades, we might indeed have built enough anomalies, imbalances and grievances to have our own Piketties complaining. But in this case, we are borrowing other people's complaints and other people's grievances. Such is our intellectual laziness, therefore, that we just borrowed the grievances of an American and a Frenchman, mostly without having read their books. Hand on your heart, tell me how many of you have really read Stiglitz or Piketty. That is embracing other people's defeat. The fourth is the most important for the argument of this week. It is our most self-destructive temptation of declaring victory too soon, which is precisely the mood building up right now. We've seen this before under Indira Gandhi a couple of times, when we only had an IAF pilot turned astronaut free riding a Soviet rocket. I'm being rude, but that's the truth. Then Rajiv Gandhi, his Mera Bharat Mahan campaign and multiple festivals of India across the world. Vajpayee's India Shining, and then under UPSA in 2007. Those headlines of self-proclaimed victory were underlined most prominently by the India Everywhere Week at that year's Davos. We've entered a similar phase now on a double dose of steroids. Victory has been declared in all kinds of areas by well-heeled Indians, from the quality of our airports to banking, quality of our internet, strength of the currency, vaccination numbers, a homemade assault helicopter and a new superfast train. 5G, never mind that a lot of other countries already have 5G. All right, it's great that we developed our own technologies in that area. But it's not as if we invented 5G for the first time. In fact, if you look at data, you see that even tiny Nepal already has 5G. Never mind. We are compulsively walking ourselves back into our favorite trap of declaring victory too soon. From the history of medieval wars to cricket chases in the pre-Kohli era, from the spasms of growth in 1991, 2003 and 2007, each followed by a meltdown to conceding 3 goals in the last 2-3 minutes in a hockey match to lose from leading 3-1, our track record is quite long and unfortunately consistent. We declared victory too early and end up messing things up. Today's high is of a different order altogether. This is a very popular ideological dispensation. In a mood where Balle Balle has become a key policy objective of the entire cabinet, who's left to raise any warning flags? This mood is such that even a bronze in the Commonwealth Games in any discipline whatsoever is celebrated as a never-before national achievement. Never mind that we have won many more medals in the earlier editions of CWGs. Never mind also that CWG isn't a particularly significant event on the international sporting calendar. In track and field and many other disciplines, sporting superpowers, Australia, England, which doesn't play as Great Britain here, just England with Scotland, Northern Ireland, etc., fielding separate teams, New Zealand and even the Caribbean islands do not send their top teams to CWG, no Usain Bolt. And in the games where we win most of our medals in CWGs, that is boxing, badminton, table tennis, weightlifting, the best in the world do not live in the Commonwealth. They do not live in Commonwealth countries. In fact, the Asiad field, the Asian Games field is much, much tougher there. Unthinking, premature celebration of sporting glory is only a metaphor for the larger malaise. We may still be happy with 6.5 to 7% growth as being the best in this world this year, but our 5-year average would just be about 3.5%. You can blame the lockdown year, but the growth had declined to below 5% even before that. There is work to do, not declare victory already. Employment, current account deficit, rural distress, agricultural productivity are all in deep crisis. 80 crore people are being given free grain and the government isn't willing to withdraw it because they are scared. Although the pandemic ended more than a year ago, that's because these people still need that grain. And you know what? Even with so much free grain, which is being very efficiently distributed to be fair, the demand for Manrega work days is still at its peak. So all the allocations for Manrega are being consumed. That means even with all this free food and some cash payouts, including for farmers, especially for farmers, and much else that goes out by way of direct benefit transfers, still lots and lots of people in our villages are coming seeking Manrega work. That means poverty is really deep even now, has become deeper lately as the figures from World Bank show us now. External threat situation is worsened with China unrelenting and Putin straining our outreach to the West. The fact is that much great stuff has happened. There is much to be proud of and celebrate. Look at the amount of physical infrastructure being built almost at warp speed. But there is also much that is wrong and much that reminds us of the perils of declaring victory too soon. To hold the mirror to ourselves isn't being a spoilsport. That is what I'm trying to do in this week's National Interest.